We are at crossroads in our history as a people, and we need to recognize that. In the earlier discussion, there was what some people think, call a lot of emotion shown. But you see, we only show that emotion precisely because we do not know our history. Because if we knew our history and understood it, we would understand that the murder of Lumumba and the overthrow of Nkrumah and the killing of the rest of our revolutionary forces are a logical pattern in the war of imperialism against our people. And precisely because you and I do not understand our history, and I'm referring primarily to all of us who are Africans, of African origin, so we get so upset whenever we see things like this. Instead of going to study our history and understand the trajectory and the pattern of imperialism, of the slavery, of colonialism, and today of neo-colonialism, which is the new colonialism. If we understood that, we would not get so upset. But we would arm ourselves and be prepared and organize ourselves. But how many of us who are expressing so much anger and hurt today, how many of us are in organizations? How many of us? Very few. We think that coming to conferences like this is where we come to talk, to get angry, to get upset. How many of us are in organizations? If you are not in an organization, if you are not in a fighting organization, then you are part of the problem. You are part of the problem precisely because you are not part of the solution. Individualism is the cancer that affects us as Africans. Individualism is what stops us from winning and defeating imperialism and neo-colonialism and white supremacy. All of it joined together. Individualism. So when I hear all this talk, I get so bored and fed up because it's just hot talk. And maybe you come once in 2 years to come and let off your steam and your pressure. You have to start getting serious now. I didn't mean to go straight into it, but just as a commentary to the last session. But first of all, let me do something. I wasn't here in the morning when we started, so I don't know how we started. But I don't know if we opened our session of our day with libation, because that is what we do as Africans. And sometimes we get so westernized, even we ourselves become so westernized that we think some things are not proper anymore. But this is why we lose our struggle, because we are being separated from ourselves. We are being turned into something that we are not. So let me start. And I should have started that before launching into the attack on emotions. By first speaking libation. Because usually we would pour libation. But I can't do that now, so I want to speak libation. And call on the memories of our ancestors, freedom fighters. One of them in whose memory we are here today. Patrice Emery Lumumba. I want to speak libation to the name of another freedom fighter, Thomas Sankara. I want to speak libation and call on the name, because we have male ancestors and we have female ancestors who fought equally in our battle for liberation. I want to call on the name of Mbuya Nehanda from Zimbabwe. She was a spiritual leader and she organized our people. I want to call the name of Nani of the Maroons from Jamaica, who organized the freedom of our people. I want to call the name of Nanaya Santewa, who stood up when the men would not fight and decided to face the British down. I call on the name of Osajefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, in whose memory I come here today to share with you. Our history is rich and is full of fighters, freedom fighters for our liberation. Our history is not the history of a weak people or the history of a defeated people. It's the history of a powerful people who have stood up to fight. I want to speak libation to the name of Marcus Mosiah Garvey, another freedom fighter who stood how will we be remembered? Not for us to come and let off air about what imperialists did to Lumumba, because the imperialists will continue to act in their own self-interest. When will Africans start to act in their own self-interest? And you know that as we have freedom fighter leaders, we also have traitors, treacherous leaders. And the most popular one today is called Barack Obama. I see some people are not happy because some of you thought that was our savior and our messiah. But that's where you continue to go wrong, because we refuse to see the enemy for who he really is. And the enemy is not just about color. Sometimes the enemy looks just like us. And you must understand this, that apart from the question of race, and that is a very obvious question that we must not run away from, there is also the more fundamental question of class interest. And as a woman, there is also the fundamental question of gender oppression. Our battles are multiple. Three key elements of our struggle as a people. And if we do not understand the issues and the ingredients of that struggle, we will lose our way and we become confused. And when we see them attacking Libya, you hear Africans say, oh yes, he stayed there for too long, he was a dictator. So it's good that they've taken away food. Imperialism continues to fool us day in, day out.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share so that we can reach everyone and build a better Africa.